All right, welcome to the first Critical Whiff podcast. I am your host, Peter, and I'm joined here by my good friend of 28 posts later, Shaun. Say hello, Shaun.
Hello, people.
This is the first one, so it's going to be a little bit rough. It's going to be a little bit raw.
It's going to be very rough.
But our first point of call was Bloodborne. This is something we just agreed on. We both played the game. Shaun's played a lot more than me. Felicia has platinum everything. But we figured it was a good way to start things. It was a good way to sort of start off the Whiff podcast.
We want to introduce ourselves first a bit.
Well, if you want to go, man. Yeah. Sure, you first.
Yeah, so we're both dumb, degenerate, workers and students.
Speak for yourself.
Well, okay. Well, I am a student, so I guess I will speak for myself. Obviously, I'll have a bit more of an introduction on my blog. I won't introduce it too much, but I'm more knowledgeable in horror than anything. I have a bit of knowledge in the weeb area as well, and some of the video game areas, but we're both of different opinions, different tastes and that, so it'll be interesting to see how we clash and how we disagree, and I'm sure this episode will be a good taste of that as well with Bloodborne, but...
Yeah, it should be fun.
Hopefully, eventually, we'll get more professional with this, and we won't be all over the place, but for the first 50 episodes or so, it's going to be all over the place.
It's going to be fun, and hopefully everyone's going to enjoy the ride. Alright, we're both writers, we both like similar stuff, some of us we cover in a whole bunch of different genres here, different mediums. Basically, just talking about stuff that we like. So, Bloodborne, let's get right into it, man. How did you first come into contact with Bloodborne, the video game?
Well, first of all, Bloodborne is one of my favourite video games ever, so I'm very much in love with this game. But it was a couple years ago, I think, and one of my friends, he played it first and was always saying, oh, you need to play this game. It's one of the best video games ever. And he was also a fan of the Dark Souls games and that, and I've always kind of looked at Dark Souls with a little bit of interest and being like, oh yeah, I kind of want to test them out one day, and I still want to. But with Bloodborne, it was kind of like, Bloodborne's just a one-off game. It's a lot easier for me to get into. I don't have to play it and then play the 2 sequels after it for it is with Dark Souls. So I was like, yeah, I'll give Bloodborne a test. And then if I like it enough, I'll probably go into Dark Souls. And the first time I played it, I stopped, I think, an hour in and didn't play it for a year. And then after that, I was like, no, I really want to go back to this and replay it. And then the second time I played it, I absolutely adored it and everything associated with it.
Yeah, I bought a PS4... in 2015, started 2016, so after a couple of models had come out, it was a ways back, and literally Bloodborne was just on sale for $15. No one was playing the game. I remember when it first came out, everyone was talking about how it's the new Dark Souls game. I'd played a bit of Dark Souls 2 back in the day on the 360 and everything else, but hadn't really had too much experience with the whole sort of setup, and it was there, and I thought, it's $15, give it a crack. And pretty much exactly what Shaun said. I picked it up, I played for about an hour, I got completely annihilated by this video game. And then just decided it's not for me. And since then, to be completely honest, it's been sitting on my shelf. And I haven't really touched it. Every now and then I go back and have a stab, and every now and then I hit boss number 3 or 4 and just decide I've had enough of this. But various friends of mine have come through and destroyed it in front of me, so I need to revisit it at some point. But I think what you find really interesting about the whole thing, and well, probably one of the things you really do like about it, Shaun, is the horror aesthetic.
Yes. The thing that drew me in the most... Bloodborne stylistically has always been a lot more appealing to me than Dark Souls has, because the whole Lovecraftian-esque horror vibe that it's going for is absolutely what I love in video games and in movies. The Lovecraftian style, the art style, the buildings, the monster designs, everything was just so appealing to me. And playing the game as well, it's just there's so much about it. It's so gritty, dark, and it's just such a pleasantly designed game in my opinion. And all the worlds, the areas and that, they're all so enjoyable, and it feels like every place you visit has its own kind of details to it. There's some kind of lore associated with it. Going through it, you can tell that there's stories here, and it's just, the world feels lively, and it all feels consistent with each other. There isn't one area that feels kind of out of place or anything. The whole game, it just feels like it exists when you go through it, and it's absolutely terrifying as well. There are some disgusting there's some disgusting looking shit in that game as well, and some horrifying shit as well. There are a few enemies that I do still think are kind of creepy.
I got into it because of the gameplay loop. I figured it would be the same as Dark Souls, so to me it had all the same kind of mechanics. You had your bonfires, your soul counts, the sort of risk-reward playstyle of the entire thing. For those of you who haven't heard of Dark Souls and don't play the video games, essentially everything that you kill gives you currency. Build up the currency. If you get killed, you drop the currency. If you get killed again, all that currency is gone. The currency is what you spend on upgrading weapons, upgrading your stat points. In Bloodborne, it's actually buying health items too, right?
Yeah. You
can kill a run, you can kill a game in the early stages if you get completely messed up enough times, which you will if you're not used to the sort of style of play. If you don't learn fast, you can actually completely kill a run in the early stages because blood vials are the healing things. It's called Bloodborne. Blood is a very large part of the entire video game. It's pretty edgy. A lot of people call it Dark Souls edgier, like younger cousins.
Yeah, that's probably a fair claim. It is a very edgy game, but I feel like it doesn't overstep its bound. It's all very earned.
Yeah, but for me, it was the gameplay loop. That's why I sort of got into it. I've never really been a big, massive fan of horror. So one of the things that Shaun's definitely got on top of me. It's not that I don't have the stomach for it. I just don't like being terrified.
Yeah.
I don't like that crawling, deep-seated, tentacled feeling of unease.
It is very much an acquired taste, and Dark Souls is definitely like horror, like incarnate at times. Like some
Bloodborne
of those,
or Dark Souls is?
Bloodborne, yeah. There's some of the
Dark Souls is horrifying too, but it's more existential. I feel like Bloodborne is existential horror, but it's a different kind of caliber. For me, it was the gameplay loop. For Shaun, it was also the gameplay loop, but more the aesthetic.
I mean, yeah, I love everything about that game. The gameplay, like, I came to love playing through it as well.
But initially, it was the aesthetic. Right?
It's definitely the aesthetic. It was very much the aesthetic that dragged me the most.
So why is it fun to play? Why is the gameplay itself really good, Shaun?
For me, I think the gameplay is just, there's so much variance in terms of like what weapons you can use as well, especially. I think like there's not just one style or anything. Each weapon has its own style. Some of them are a bit similar in ways, but almost every weapon's different. It's got some kind of different gimmicks. The weapons are also like, if I'm going to be a fanboy and not be like pretentious or anything, they're also fucking cool looking. There's no weapon in that game that you don't look at and think, oh man, that is so edgy, I love it. Like there's a fucking giant wheel you can get, I'm pretty sure you light on fire or something, isn't there? I think there is, yeah. It's like this giant wheel and you can light on fire and you start mowing down enemies with it, I'm pretty sure. Then they've got like the whole like giant sword with the mini sword in it as well. The weapon designs are so pleasant to look at.
That's a carryover from the old Dark Souls game.
Yeah, I think it is.
The Moonlit Sword of Ludwig or whatever it is.
The Ludwig sword is just, but it lets you. There's so many variants to play styles. Like I beat the whole game without using any of the beast pellets or anything, and I want to play it again and try and utilize those more. Same with the magic as well. I rarely use magic in my first playthrough. I feel like the game lets you play it however you want, and if so long as you treat it smart. I feel like that this is a game as well where, for me, I felt like the more I started to respect the game, the more I felt like I actually started to enjoy it more as well. It's like there are so many bosses where I just keep charging in and not leveling up or anything. But once I stopped doing that and kind of went on my own and actually started to level up and take the game more seriously, I felt like the game was taking me seriously as a player as well, and I was able to actually enjoy it more and to fight the bosses more. Like there's so many bosses in that game that just destroyed me because I was so stubborn. I was like, no, I'm beating it now. And then I leave for a day and come back and be like, fine, I'll level up for a bit. And then I go back to the boss like a week later and I destroy it. And I'm like, yeah, okay, this game is rewarding you when you actually are playing it smart.
Just for a brief overview, though, for anyone who hasn't played Soulsborne games, Soulsborne is the catch-all phrase because Bloodborne's technically part of the family now. Dark Souls games, we'll say Bloodborne, we'll talk about Bloodborne here. Bloodborne really operates around the idea that you have pathways or areas that lead to bosses. In a lot of ways, it's a lot like your old-school 2D fighters or 2D platformers, right? You move towards a boss or you move towards one particular big fight. And you go through these different areas, like level design like that. There's a lot in common with old-school Nintendo hard games. This is another thing about Bloodborne. It's incredibly punishing. It's a very, very difficult game to pick up and just play if you're not used to it. The mechanics aren't necessarily intuitive. The controls aren't necessarily intuitive a lot of the time. And putting everything together and figuring it all out if you don't have any background in the Souls games at all is pretty tough, I'd say. But the level design, the enemy, even basic combat with a low-level enemy, they can kill you in 2 or 3 or 4 hits. If there's 3 of them and they surround you, push you into a wall, they'll smack the crap out of you. And that's game then. You die, you have to respawn, you have to go pick up all the stuff that you've been working so hard. Every time you die, all the enemies respawn. You're back at square one every single time. And it's very punishing and it rewards mobility, it rewards flanking, it rewards good crowd control, constant movement, and timing your attacks because a big thing, this is Souls, but also in Bloodborne, is stamina bar. Most games where you used to do hack and slashes, you can run around and you can just keep smacking stuff. You can stun lock everything, it's fine. Bloodborne has a stamina bar, so essentially any action that isn't walking, if you want to roll, if you want to dodge, if you want to hit something, takes up a bit of stamina. That recharges, but if you empty your stamina, you're just stuck there for about 2 seconds while the entire thing charges back up. And in a game like this fast-paced, with this many punishing enemies, that is the death sentence. And that is the gameplay loop of Bloodborne, and that's what makes it so challenging and rewarding when you win. You feel like you're learning, and this is part of the reason for the bosses. You're fighting something that's about 6 times bigger than you are, moves like an out-of-control train.
Yeah. Some of those bosses just charge you, and you just sit there in the first battle. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm dead.
Most of them at lower levels, if you're woefully underleveled, as Shaun pointed out, you can't get to that stage. They'll just annihilate you in 2 hits. Yeah. That's the end of it, or 1 hit.
That was my Ludwig experience for like a month.
Pretty much, mate. Like you just get wrecked. You will always get wrecked. And so the difficulty, the constant cycle of difficulty is always present, and it's evident in most of the combat and the level design because you can fight your way through an entire horde of enemies, get to the boss, get killed, then have to start at scratch again, kill all those enemies or run past them all if you feel it ballsy, and then go and fight the boss again. If you die, it's the same thing. It's a constant repeat. So you're essentially smashing your head against the wall, to quote Yahtzee Kershaw. smashing your head against the wall until you can break it down. But one of the good things about Bloodborne, as opposed to some Dark Souls titles, such as my favourite, the second one, is shortcuts, which is really good. We can go to level design now. But the combat, just to reiterate, the combat and the weapons, absolutely, weapons are what makes it. You have a lot of different ways of approaching this particular kind of combat, this particular kind of gameplay loop. You just mentioned the weapons, and there's magic, and there's firearms, and a whole bunch of stuff, which is really cool for parry mechanics. We can go into that in a bit of depth later. But that's the sort of how you play the game, and then you've got all these weapons and everything, which add so much variety. Just to that particular gameplay loop, you can do it. You can approach it in a lot of different ways. You can hit it hard, you can hit it fast and light, magic, guns. That's really cool. But level design is a big part of this too, right?
Yes, level design is.
We can go into aesthetics. I'm just talking about the actual mapping.
It's just I love it with Dark Souls as well, just everything I've seen. But like the way these games, or at least most of them, from what I've seen, just the way they manage to make it so satisfying to just come back to previous areas and find, oh cool, this is a shortcut to an old newer area or something. Just it's like an art form with these games, honestly. The way of like the shortcuts, they nail it so well. It's just stunning to me. Just like it's so satisfying just to find a shortcut back
out of the entire franchise has the best shortcut system, because you might be slaving away absolutely just getting wrecked for hours, right? On one particular area. The enemies there are a particular kind of caliber, they're just a little bit too beefy for you. You might be killing them, you might be cashing in your points. It's still a massive slog to get to the boss room, and then you just happen to go, I'm not going to run to the boss just yet, let's go down here and kill something in this side alley. Lo and behold, you find a door or a gate, you push that open, and suddenly it's right next to your bonfire, your lamp in Bloodborne. Your lamp is where you respawn every time you die, it's a checkpoint essentially. And then suddenly you've got, instead of taking 15 minutes of just straight killing enemies to get to the boss room, you suddenly have this nifty little shortcut, and it takes you like 2.
Yeah.
And Bloodborne does this routinely. I mean, almost every level has a variation on these shortcuts, which just makes it so much more awesome, like so much better for you to be able to get to the boss room in a hurry. But you got to look for them. They're not easy to find.
I'm pretty sure almost every boss fight in that game has a shortcut to like a lamp if you actually do look for it.
Yeah. But you wouldn't know about this just walking in, which is another part of the whole reason. This game does not have a in-depth tutorial.
No,
it doesn't have, this is how you play, this is how you don't play. It gives you big boy shoes and says, all right, you want to play this game?
Yeah.
You have to figure it out for yourself.
It like starts you off in a room with like fist only, then you get mauled by a dog, and then it's like, all right, well here's a weapon, go try again, and that's basically.
You wake up in the hunter's dream. We'll get into the lore in a bit, but there's also a hub area where you can go and you can level up your weapons. It's the only safe area in the game really, or else you're spawning and you get destroyed if you start walking. Well, there's potential for you to get destroyed. Once you get a feel of combat and everything else, things start to feel less threatening. But also on an earlier point you were talking about, mate, one of the more satisfying things about Bloodborne is once you've leveled up past a certain point, going back to those older areas that were just hitting you for 6 every single time, something you can just rip through people.
Yeah,
destroy enemies.
Yeah.
And that feels good because you can just remember, maybe 2 hours ago when you were still trying to like rip through that area, it was so hard to do. Now that you're leveled, now that you're a bit more beefy, now your character has more stamina, more health, you've got better weapons, you can just rip through stuff.
Yeah, it's satisfying, and then you go back to this area where you were just like wrecked for hours and it took you so long to get through, and you destroy enemies and you feel good about yourself. Then you go to a new area, then some fucking Lovecraftian horror jumps out from the ground and like destroys you, and you're like, all right, I'm not that great yet.
You're back in the loop again.
Yeah, you're back in the loop, and then you'll go back
and
you'll go back there eventually, and you'll destroy that monster just to get mauled by some other monster later down the track.
There's continual pressure to keep moving forward because past a certain point, the more blood echoes you spend, the more you level up, the more it costs you, right?
Yes, it starts to cost more.
Past a certain point, you can't sit there and just keep farming enemies because they're not going to drop enough for you to level up that next level. So you can't just sit there and farm, real basic mobs.
Yeah,
at all, really. You've really just got to, you kill a boss, you level up, you go on to the next area, you just get completely annihilated for however long, and then once you farm up enough there, you go back, you level up, you come back, kill the next boss, and that's just, it keeps you moving forward. It feels... Yeah. It doesn't feel like it feels like a slog if you're constantly dying and you don't know how to adapt or don't know how to do things. And that's just part of the nature of the game.
I feel like you do get better though. Like towards the end of the game especially, I felt like I'd started to die a lot less, and I feel like the game is rewarding doing that. So long as you do adapt, you get into a rhythm of things, but it never gets old or anything. Like all the bosses, like end game bosses, are still quite interesting. It's just that you start to get used to it and you know what to do and what to expect. But it makes it all the more fun just to like progress through these areas and like start to survive rather than just getting killed all the time.
Yeah, that's right. And while we're on it, man, let's talk about the bosses. Yeah, this is the big thing, right? So Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but we'll talk about Bloodborne here, of course. But Dark Souls is it's made by the same guys. Miyazaki made Dark Souls 1 and 3.
Yeah.
He didn't have anything to do with 2. He was actually developing Bloodborne while 2 was going on.
Yeah,
2 happens to be my favourite game, and
most
people can agree that the design for that video game was jank. Just put it gently. Compared to everything else, it's not very well polished. It's fun.
Yeah.
But it's not very well polished. It's a lot easier, actually, as well. Than the other.
Yeah, I think I've heard that as well, and it's a fair bit easier.
Yeah, I went in as a nub, and I stayed a nub, and it's obvious when I pick up Bloodborne, I'm still a nub. But I really do enjoy it. No, but the bosses, man. The bosses is the big shining point of all Soulsborne games, but Bloodborne in particular. I mean, we can talk about the design, but I'm talking about, again, the gameplay loop.
The gameplay is just, like, fantastic as well. Like, the first boss fight that you go against, I can't remember his name right now.
Gascoigne.
Yeah, Gascoigne.
Yeah.
That boss fight, I think, is so hard. It's, like, hard, but it's so perfectly designed, because the whole point is that he is you, basically. You're fighting what you can do. Like, everything he does, you can do. Like, he turns into a monster around the end point of the battle, but that's, like, there's still, like, the whole battle is, like, what he can do, you can do. And it's great to make the player get confronted with that first, because, he can do everything I can do. Why am I losing? So why am I the one that's getting killed all the time? It's because you're not good enough yet. And playing that boss fight, it lets you, like, improve in that. I love it when a game does that. Like, when you fight a boss fight, like, you're fighting something that is just basically you. It's what I love in Devil May Cry, which we'll probably talk about. Like, Devil May Cry 3 more, I'd say.
Is that the one with Nero versus Dante?
No, 3 is the Virgil and, like, Dante one that I'm talking about. Like, I don't want to turn into a DMC discussion just yet. That's too soon. But the Gascoigne fight is just perfect because it's, in my opinion, the ideal kind of, like, tutorial boss you want to do. A boss fight that is similar in design to how your character plays, and that is hard. Like, it's brutal, yeah.
Brutally difficult when you pick up the game.
And Bloodborne does a bunch of those boss fights as well. Like, there's the, I can't remember her name either, the one in the clock tower. I think she's in the DLC, though.
Freda?
I can't
Freda
remember.
or Frida? Or, no, I'm thinking of Dark Souls 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a vile blood queen, right?
Yeah, she has, like, the blood sword, and, like, that's also another similar fight of, like, it's just like any Bloodborne fight where you're fighting a hunter is basically fucking perfect.
Anyone your size.
Yeah.
Prepare.
Like, the monsters are great as well. Like, Ludwig, I think, is a fucking brilliant boss fight, as much as it destroyed me. But, like, the hunter boss fights are, in my opinion, where the game shines the most, because it's just like fighting against another player, and everything they can do, once you get their weapon, you can do as well. So it feels fair, it feels fun to fight, and it feels rewarding when you actually do beat them. It's like, yes, I've improved, I've adapted to their style.
Absolutely. No, Gascoigne hits like a truck. He's, for me, that was pretty much, I think, the point. I was trying to be, gas can in the community for short, but trying to fight him, and I just remember, it was rage-inducing. I was there for an hour and a half, 2 hours, trying to slap this guy down. Could not do it. Didn't know the strats. Didn't know any of the tricks. Didn't know about parrying. Yeah. Parrying mechanics. You can interrupt attacks. You can shoot them with your pistols. You have a pistol and a weapon, like a regular sort of main weapon, and a pistol in the other hand. And when someone comes at you to attack you, if you time it right, you can shoot them and you get like a free visceral attack. So essentially, it's a parry, like you would get in Dark Souls. Although a little easier and also harder to pull off, depending. Some enemies you can interrupt, some you really can't. It just depends. There's a lot of bosses you can't, but Gascoigne is one you can, much like you can with Invaders, which we get into.
I think it's Maria, actually, the huntress I'm thinking of. Yeah, I think that's the one I'm thinking of, just to state.
Even like walking around in Bloodborne and later areas, just one of the NPC hunters. That aren't even bosses. Yeah. And they're scarier pretty much than most of the other
enemies. There's the fucking one that has like the plague mask or something, like the girl, like one of the NPCs, you can fight her for like something, and she's fucking difficult to fight as an NPC. The crow, Eileen or something, Eileen, yeah. I remember, like, I was following a guy. I was like, yeah, you should be able to kill her now. And I could not. She completely fucking destroyed me. And I was, like, trapped at spawn because she'd keep running at me. And I was like, why did I follow the guide?
Yeah.
No, the hunters are, like, amazing in that game. They're all so well designed, but they're also just, like, so much fun to fight.
Oh, yeah. I find it really difficult. I enjoy watching it play at a high level. But playing myself is something else entirely. But I really can appreciate it. And when I get into it, I probably need to sit down and give it a really good crack. But just as from an academic standpoint, I suppose, or from a more being able to stand off, Shaun could talk about this a lot better than I can, I think. But just being able to sort of sit there and observe it and notice the similarities and differences and how it sort of really comes into its own as a game, as opposed to Dark Souls, which I've had a bit more to do with, it really does stand out as a particularly amazing game. It was one of the flagship releases for PS4, and it sold like 2 million copies in 2015.
Yeah, it did well.
It's for something that's that hard. I mean, there's so many people just buying that game and giving back for the reasons we've just described. It's punishing. It rewards a careful playstyle. It rewards you not just being able to go in there and hit buttons and everything go in your favor. It doesn't work that way at all. It's really measured. It's really tactical. You need muscle memory. You need to have skills. You got to have sharp hand-eye coordination. You got to have good reflexes. You got to understand where stuff's coming from. And a lot of the time you still can't. A lot of the time you still get ambushed. A lot of the time you still get your face ripped off. Like it happens.
It feels like that whole game, there's been so many, like, playing it the first time through, there were so many times where I, like, would almost throw the controller down and be like, fuck this game, that's bullshit. But I feel like that game is, everything it does, it throws at you, it's fair, and you can avoid, but it's just like, you can't because you're not good enough when you first encounter
Also, you're not aware of how it works.
and you're not aware. But that game, I don't think there's a single boss I'd say is unfair or anything. It's just like... Also in a cause is just fucking, like, difficult. But even then, that boss is quite fair if you played a long game and, like, waited it off. And I think that's how it's meant to be. That's the closest it gets to being unfair, though. That boss is very fucking intense. Like, turns into a
boss
fucking massive butterfly and starts lasering you. I feel like nightmarish. I remember I finished, like, Ludwig, and I was like, that would be the last hard boss fight for this game. And then I get to Orphan of Cos, and I'm like, yeah, it's just some little meat sack or something. It'll be fine. And then all of a sudden, it's fucking flying at me and, like, attacking me. And I'm like, no, I'm dead. This is great.
Again and again and again.
But it's fun. Like, that whole game. I would play it again. And I want to play it in different in different ways. Like, I love watching people, like, using the beast powers now. I'd love to just kind of limit myself and be like, no, like, use only beast powers or I'll only use magic and see how it is. It's such a well-made game. And I imagine all the Dark Souls games are as well, and I want to visit them, but I feel like I'll always love Bloodborne the most just because there's so much more for me there.
I feel like it's really tight. There's a lot going on with Bloodborne in terms of the movement is insane. You have your anime flash step side to side, which is amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
In Dark Souls, you don't have anything like that at all. This is one of the big things that sort of made me rock back on my heels when I was playing Bloodborne. It's just so fast, man.
Yeah,
Like,
it is.
It's
really
quick. The pace of the game is so vicious. If you play Dark Souls at all, you have the ability to sort of sit there and block and, like, dodge roll out of the way. You can tank some hits. You can do whatever. This one, you're, like, essentially the glass cannon. And in every engagement, you're just faster than they are. You can move, you can hit like a truck, but if you get hit, you're done for if you're not angling properly. But you've got these crazy anime side steps you can do when you start. I call them that again, but it's crazy.
They really are.
To the side. You can avoid all kinds of stuff with it. It's awesome. You're really mobile, and you can hit really fast depending on your builds.
Yeah, I reckon
you're a Dex guy, aren't you?
Probably.
You like the threaded cane, don't you?
Yeah. No, I fucking liked the Kirk hammer. I think it's what it's called. Like the hammer and like the sword. That was
the big boy.
Yeah, the big boy.
That's great.
I played Dark Souls actually. Like I think Dark Souls 2. I think it was for like the first time last year. And the first thing I did, I was like, "Holy shit! The dodge is so slow." And I was just playing like, "This is so much slower than Bloodborne." People were not exaggerating.
And I had the opposite effect, man. Yeah. I thought Dark Souls 2 was scary fast.
Yeah.
And then I moved over to Bloodborne. I'm like, this is Dark Souls on cocaine. Tripping balls, but it was terrifying. The pace is really in there. The thing about Bloodborne, and you'll see this everywhere on Wikipedia articles and everyone else, they always talk about the fact that the game rewards aggression and it rewards fast-paced attack and constant movement. And like we're talking about playing conservative, playing safe, but that's not just you standing there in a corner hiding behind something.
No, yeah.
You are dancing around at the speed of light as best you can, dodging lasers from flying butterfly bosses.
Yeah.
to try and get by. It really is very fast-paced and very aggressive sort of gameplay, and that's another part of it, right? Because once you get good at it, you're just ripping through people like a...
Once you get good,
you become a meat grinder.
Yeah, you're a meat grinder, yeah.
Turn every single street you walk onto it, and abattoir, it's terrifying stuff. It's really good fun, though.
It's an amazingly satisfying.
So we've talked about the gameplay loop more or less. The level design's astonishing, as we were saying earlier. There's a lot of variation, and it's maze-like in some cases, but also I wouldn't say it's super open world. You've got more open areas, but it's reasonably linear, let's be honest.
It's pretty linear, yeah.
You're not just hopping from one place to the other. And the shortcuts make everything a lot nicer too, but let's be honest, this game's all about the boss fights. Yeah. It's all about the grinding the mobs, getting through the new areas, getting to the boss fights. It's like Mario. In a lot of ways, there's all platforms.
Yeah. It's pretty similar to Mario.
Crash Bandicoot might be another example. It's got that kind of feeling. Less platforming. What's another good example of this? Old school games that just level to boss to level to boss to level to boss. And there's plenty. All the old arcade games.
Yeah, basically it's just like all those old games.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, cool. So, we've got that. Let's go to the drapes now. Let's go to the window dressing. Let's go to the aesthetic that you were talking about earlier. Let's talk about that a little bit.
It's like the style, like the Lovecraftian horror.
We'll get into the Lovecraftian horror aspect, but just aesthetically, how would you describe it?
It's nightmarish. It's like the simplest way to say it. And that's like the whole thing, is that it's just a dream or a nightmare. And that's what makes it, that's what brings it all around. Like playing a game, seeing everything that's in it, it is nightmarish. Like in the final area, you get this fucking like, is it like titophobia or something? The thing with fear of like small like eyes like honest objects or something. Like
okay, I don't know what the word is, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, with that, like, there's this enemy that has, like, just walks around with this massive head. It's got, like, a billion eyes on it. It's fucking terrifying every time you see it. And, like, the second the character looks at it, like, his insanity just boosts up, and your character's, like, your frenzy. Yeah, it's insanity, I think. I think it might be insanity in Bloodborne. I might be wrong there.
It's frenzy in Bloodborne, I think. Your insight, you got the insight mechanic, but you got frenzy is that thing that stacks.
It could be.
You start having spears of blood at anybody.
Yeah,
That's frenzy.
well, yeah. It might be, but yeah, either way, there are so many fucking just, like, it feels like some areas as well are designed to just kind of cater towards certain fears, and like everything is just like nightmarish, and again it just escalates more and more. Like at the start of the game it's kind of tame, you're in this kind of city looking area and it's like, yeah, it's not that bad.
Victorian London.
Yeah, like Victorian-esque, like kind of old London design, and then you start to like go through bloody like blood and like it feels like you just enter a nightmare after you leave.
I would say the first area itself is nightmarish enough. I mean, you remember you walk out. So first of all, you wake up in a workshop or a hospital or something. You walk outside. There's this massive slavering werewolf waiting for you.
Yeah.
You've got no weapons. You're expected to kill the thing. That's where you get your little mini tutorial, and you have to be looking for tutorial options either.
Yeah,
you try and kill the thing. It destroys you. You wake up with the Hunter's Dream, which is the nicest area in the entire game.
The Hunter's Dream is a perfect hub world. Yeah.
It really is. It's lovely. You know, you've got this. It's pleasant. And then you go back with weapons, so you can beat out the werewolf if you want. You can run straight past it. Then you walk out into the street, and there's a whole bunch of these village guys just hanging around. It's like 5 of them. You kill them, and you realise like these guys move fast. They're a bit weird too. They move jank. They've got like way too long arms, and they're a bit hairy. But you don't really notice that the first time, I don't think. And then you pull the ladder down. You start to climb up that ladder, and you see that blood-curdling shriek of the cleric beast. On the way up to the first checkpoint in the game, this is ear-splitting scream as you're walking up, and you just every time you hear it the first time, you just see people like, "What the hell was that?" It's horrifying, man. It really is, and this is still during the day. This is like mid-afternoon, twilight kind of time. You know, that's the start of the game, and this is what Shaun is calling tame as well.
Yeah,
this is how it starts. You walk down a couple more, and you get to an entire street full of people burning werewolves on crucifixes in the street. And that's actually another big, massive oh shit moment, right? When you walk down onto the street and there's about 30 enemies in front of you.
Yeah, it's so
and
many.
And you had problems with 3 or 4 before. Now there's 30 of them.
And they've also got like 4 dogs like charging at you as well.
Oh man, that's the start of the game. That's the easiest part of the game. After that, it just gets gnarly.
It's fucked. Like the whole design, like of everything, it's just so amazing. Then halfway through the game, you like realize that you like once you get, I think it's enough like inside or something. You start to fucking realize that there's these giant things hanging off of buildings that have always been watching you, and like the whole like game, they've always been there, but you can only see them now because you have enough insight or whatever it is.
Insight something is a consumable currency. You can pick up,
I think so.
And if you see enough bosses or enemies, you start. Enemies actually get more aggressive. They change up their attack patterns.
I think they do. Basically, the big thing is that these giant things hanging off buildings, you can start to see, and you realize, they've always been there, and they grab you and sometimes bring you to different like areas as well.
That's DLC.
I think one of them's DLC, but one of them is like actual story progression.
I think that's right, yeah. And you need enough insight sometimes to do certain things. And also, by the way, when you die, you can't wake up in the Hunter's Dream unless you have 1 insight. So you go.
I think you can, but you can only see the doll. You can't see the doll.
Until you've seen a boss.
Yeah.
Or you don't have any insight in the first part of the game anyway. So you have to actually find a boss, and then you can level up after you find that boss. Which is terrifying, by the way, because
and I'm pretty sure like that whole idea like ties into like not being able to talk to the doll without insight ties into like the whole idea that she's one of the old ones or one of the
that's a really good fan theory. I was reading about that earlier, but we'll get into that in a minute. The aesthetic is it's dark, it's dripping with blood at every single corner you walk to. The werewolf hybrids, and one big thing I think this game is a quintessential example to me of really good design of body horror.
Yeah,
body horror is the game. I haven't seen any kind of monsters like this before. I don't go around looking for body horror monsters or
It's basically just Lovecraft,
I don't look at that stuff online. I like puppies, but
you like puppies.
I don't want to be looking at Lovecraftian nightmares. I have too much of an active imagination.
Different fetishes.
You play this game, and it's just insane. Like the way people turning into wolves is like the common werewolf thing. Most people are like, it'd be kind of cool to be a wolf man. You see these guys, this is really not. They're diseased, they're scabbed, and half of them are wolves and half of them are not, and they're lumbering around and screaming in pain and trying to kill anything they can see.
Horrifying.
They're the most basic, like, unterrifying enemies. You run into enemies who the hell head explodes and it's just a forest of snakes trying to eat your face.
Yeah.
That always gets me. You have the Nazgul, you have the 3 Shadows of Yharnam. running around and snakes start exploding out of them.
And then there's those like fucking massive things that walk around and like with the sack over their head and they like knock you out. And then if you get killed by them, they fucking put you in the sack and bring you back to this new area. And you're like, where the hell am I? Yeah.
You don't have access to a checkpoint.
Yeah.
You can't run back to the dream. You can't go back to your safe area. You're just stuck in this completely new area. You don't know where you are.
It's terrifying. The first time it happened, I was like, oh, I'm dead. And I'm like, no, it's going on for too long. And then I'm in this new area and there's like 50 of the things that just killed me. And I'm like, what the fuck am I? Like, what? I don't want to be here right now. It's great.
What else? I'm just trying to think of... I mean, obviously you've got the classic sort of Cthulhu-esque Lovecraftian horrors. I don't see like massive... I think the best example of that would be the Moon Presence, right?
Yes.
That's like the most sort of...
That is
Lovecraft,
old,
Cthulhu style.
That is as old ones as it gets. Like the old gods, that is like Lovecraftian as you can possibly get.
And then you've just got stuff that's clean messed up. The One Reborn. Oh my days! If you've seen that, it's
Even Orphan of Cos is pretty Lovecraftian. There's Ludwig as well. Like all that, it's just like
mismatched, crazy monster design.
It's like your standard Lovecraftian, but it's done so perfectly that it gets like better.
It's a big part of the game. We'll get into the lore a bit later, but it is that people are trying to become old ones, or old ones are trying to impregnate people. It's weird, but essentially, there's so many hybrids. Like so many people started off as human or something approaching human, and so many animals have been affected by this. Then you have like the crows with the wolf heads, and then you have the wolves with the crow's heads. They're there. You know, you've got brains, a giant brain,
the brains. There's like one area where there's like a tower and it's got an eye that just watches you and it gives you like frenzy the whole time. And you have to like knock the eye down, but then you can go down into the dungeon and like the eye is just staring at you and it's fucking terrifying. You're like in this black void, except it's all black except it's just this giant eye staring down at you. It's like, fuck me.
You got the amygdala creatures, brain creatures with all limbs just hanging off buildings and watching you.
Fucking talking about this is like giving me fucking PTSD.
Shit
that I just tried to
You got the slimy academic boys in the university, like these slime monsters who just fall off the ceiling, just grab your head and then just eat you alive. You've got the bent over crones, the witches of Hemwick to worry about, and they're monsters. Like they've got these creatures that, if you have enough insight, they start spawning these shadow nightmares with sickles that just turn up out of nowhere and start ripping to pieces. Fuck. It's terrifying, man. This game is scary.
Horrifying.
Aesthetically though, it has that element. This is a big part of what you really love about it. It's just, it's dark, don't even get me started on what happens when the blood moon comes up. That's like halfway through the game after you kill the spider Rom, the vacuous spider. Suddenly everything just goes, it started off, it gets like progressively worse, progressively, but kill the boss about halfway through the game and everything just gets ramped up on steroids.
Yeah.
Suddenly everything's dripping with blood, all the streets are covered in crap. The monsters are 3 times as terrifying. Quite frankly, like the entire thing is just like you get in this very, very, very uncomfortable. You get terrified at points of all these different monsters, and then the game just hits halfway point. You're thinking, finally, if I kill this guy, everything will wake up, it'll be fine. And then it just goes, no. So we're just gonna balance up by like a factor of 3. Now it's twice as terrifying.
It's fucked up.
Yeah, dude, it's gnarly. Those are the aesthetics.
Yeah, that's the aesthetics.
But the entire thing is body horror. The feeling's body horror. It's darkness. It's blood everywhere. It's just it's messy. It's visceral, and it's terrifying. It really is hybrids and monsters and shit you don't understand happening all the time around you, and that's a big part of the horror element. That's a big part of what keeps you on your toes so much. So add that to the gameplay loop we were talking about earlier, and you've already got yourself a recipe for trouble. It's fairly gnarly. But those are the visuals and the aesthetic. I mean, and this ties really nicely actually into why this is one of the big things of Souls games. I think is it's such a mystery. But what is the story with Bloodborne?
Yeah, the Bloodborne story is like, there's a PDF document online, and I think any Bloodborne fan that's listening to this already knows what I'm talking about. It's probably already creaming their pants over the idea of like this PDF document. The fucking, like, my friend basically like holds it up as like his Bible. Was like, this is the best summary of the lore, and it's fantastic. If I can find a link or something to it, I might include it. But
should.
It's the perfect summary. But like the whole point of Bloodborne's lore is that it's basically just trying to make old ones, like Pete said before. The whole point is that you're trying to make the new old ones, and there's multiple endings for the game as well. Like you can wake up from the nightmare, you can kill the like old one, and then become the new like kind of Graham or whatever. I think his name's Graham, right? The one that sits on the wheelchair. It's like Graham or something. No, I swear it starts with a G.
It's not Graham. Yeah, it's Gura or something like that. Yeah.
Well, you become the new him, and then like you start like you sit with the doll. Or there's like a new ending as well where you're, like the doll, like you become like this this fetus thing. Squid. Yeah, you become a squid, and then the doll holds you, and like basically the implication is that the doll is like an old one, and that you are the new child, like the new child God reborn.
You essentially become one of the old ones. I think a big part is they're not trying to create a new one. They're trying to open a passage of communication with these things because these creatures do exist. They're vast, unknowable entities with godlike power and knowledge. And everyone on the ground in Yharnam's the name of the basic area of the city.
Yeah, that's it.
Everyone's trying to reach up and be able to find the knowledge and the power that comes from these things and ascend to their level or basically gain power. And knowledge, the big thing is always knowledge. How do we know? How do we find out more stuff? How do we gain power for ourselves? This is a really big part of the whole Bloodborne universe. The results of trying to commune with such creatures is predominantly what you fight throughout the game, right?
Yeah, it's fucking...
Could you give a brief summary of the lore, or is it just going to be a little
there's so much in that PDF document. Yeah. Like, there's, like, chapters just on, like... I think there's, like, a whole chapter just on Ludwig himself and, like, what he is and, like, what all the characters are. Give a summary of it. It's just, like... It's almost a disservice to the game. There's so much there that it's ridiculous. All I can say is, like, if you know what the PDF document is, like, you already know what I'm talking about. But if you don't... If you play the game and you haven't read it, I'll try and put a link in because I think it's fucking phenomenal to read. It's like a novel almost. I'd buy like a physical copy of it if the like creators released it and was like, yeah, read this if you want the story. Like, I would absolutely buy it and just like read it every fucking year.
I think another thing with this though, what's really interesting, and this is most of the Souls games actually, and Bloodborne in particular, is you can play the entire video game and not really even care about the story.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the crazy thing about it. The gameplay loop is sufficient that you don't really, past a certain point, you don't really play it for the story. You just play it for the boss fights.
Exactly.
You just rip through it. You don't really care about what's going on.
You can finish.
There's a whole bunch of super like subtle or open-ended or mysterious quotes and weird cutscenes that make no sense outside of anything else. And Miyazaki, the guy who directed this game, basically just said he wants to keep it so open-ended that even he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly, and that's great in my opinion. And I love
so it's compiled a PDF apparently.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I love that you can just like you don't need to understand the lore or anything. Even if I didn't understand the lore, I'd still praise it as being like one of the funnest games I've ever played. The lore just kind of completes it for me, like what the interpretations are. But like, you can finish that game, you can see that you turn into a squid baby somehow, and you can be like, cool, I'm done. Like I'm fine to not play this game again. Like,
or you suddenly go, I want to do New Game Plus in this game.
Exactly, yeah. And there's a lot of content there. The only bit of the game that I really don't like is the chalice dungeons. I think there's too much for that. Like,
we forgot about those randomly generated dungeons that you can pull up.
And you need to like do a bunch of them for a trophy. So because I platinumed that, I did it, and it gets a bit boring after a while. But that being said, it also has one of the coolest boss fights at the end of those chalice dungeons. Like, it's like I can't remember her name. She's like White or something. It's like I think it's the White something or like, but it's like this. It's the queen. It's a queen of something.
Oh right, yeah, queen of Thumera.
That might be it. That might be it.
But yeah, that boss queen or something.
Yeah, I think so. But like, either way, the boss fight that's at the end of the chalice dungeons, that's fucking fantastic. That's a fun boss fight, and it's almost rewarding to get there. But those chalice dungeons are fucking annoying. Like there's one where you can't like get hit once, and like yeah, like there's some like where like some of them have different challenges. I remember I got into one. I was like, yeah, you can't get hit or something. I think or something stupid like that. I was like, I'm gonna be fucking dead. Like I'm not gonna be able to get through this, but.
You did?
I did, yeah, I did it, and I finished the chalices, and I was like, that's cool, that was fun, but I wish there was less, like, to them, or something, or, like, they weren't as mandatory. Because there's a bit of lore.
They're only mandatory if you're playing.
Well, there's a bit of lore associated with them as well, actually. Like, the chalices are kind of put into the lore, like, as well, but it's still kind of like...
Basically, I think, in short, though, the chalice dungeons are from the Thumerians, and it's a PTH, whatever it is, Thumuru or Thumerians, but they basically built all Yharnam. And they were the ones who allegedly made contact with the old gods and then ascended to some kind of godhood themselves, like supernatural gods themselves. And they built Yharnam, and essentially, so the entire game you're playing, we didn't even talk about the main character, what he's supposed to do.
I mean, the main character is basically you. Like, the thing that Dark Souls and Bloodborne do well, I don't think Sekiro does it, but Sekiro is another story. But the thing that Bloodborne and Dark Souls do well, in my opinion, is that the main character is basically just like, he's a template for you to like kind of play on. Like you are the main character, you're experiencing it, it's your story kind of.
Yeah, but you still got to go and do something. Right?
Yeah, you still got to go and do something.
And it's like, in Bloodborne, let's be honest, it's kill monsters and get to the end of the sort of gameplay thing, and that's going to be rough at any given point. But yeah, it's fun. I do like the lore. I do like the setups for all that kind of stuff. I find the whole world itself fascinating. In fact, you can tell an entire story purely through visuals, purely through gameplay.
It's
else. And it's a very, very important part of this game we've been neglecting.
Yeah, is that?
Yeah, the music.
Oh, the music. Yeah, that's very true. The music is incredible at points.
Yeah.
Like it's just, it's like, it escalates some scenes. I remember, like, during the Ludwig boss fight, when you beat the first phase for the first time, and you don't know it's the first phase at that point, and then the cutscene plays. I remember, like, the music kind of, like, escalates and gets mightier, and you're like, holy fuck, it's ripping a sword out, I'm dead. I am so dead the second this cutscene ends. And then you get eviscerated. Like, it's one swipe, and you're just, like, blown back, and you're like, I'll try that again.
Yeah, I guess. But I have to go through the first phase again. To get to here.
The music is incredible, and like
it's got a very dark, melancholy, like it's got the eerie chanting that makes no sense. It is quite Lovecraftian a little bit.
It is very Lovecraftian.
It's very dark. It's very dark and orchestral, I'd say, for the most part.
It just perfectly invokes the emotion you should be feeling as well. Absolutely. Like the second you hear it, you're like, you feel dread. You like feel like, oh, I'm fucked. I am dead in minutes.
I would feel. I'm guessing. I don't remember the music that well. I don't listen to it off clock, I suppose. But one of the big things with it does, obviously it's very classical. You're not going to find a lot of, dubstep beats, so we'll find a lot of drum lines in there. It's very gothic.
It's gothic.
Right? It's gothic. It really ties very well into the entire thing, and it really does speed up the intensity. Sound design's good as well. That's another thing. Like you slap something with a serrated saw blade, it crunches, it rips, it tears. You really get a good feeling of it. There's gratuitous splatter, of course, but even just the sounds. The monsters make it just messed up.
They're fucked up.
The way some of them move, but sound design in this game is phenomenal. The feeling of hitting a parry, it's this gorgeous noise that you hear every time you let it parry. It's just this. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a bell.
Yeah.
Like a bell or like a bullet bouncing off a bell and then making the bell ring. Like a sort of, I don't know, something about it. It's just really, really good.
It's really good, yeah.
And then you just know I've got a free hit, and now I can run up here and I can get this meaty suit. I can rip something out of this creature and then make blood go everywhere.
Rip and then whatever it is.
Massive amount of damage out of visceral attacks. This is another mechanic we didn't mention, but if we were sitting here talking about all the mechanics in Bloodborne, we'd be here all day, man.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, there is a lot.
I mean, it's simple, but at the same time, it's complex. There's a lot of ways to do things, but you
like I said before,
like parries, your backstabs, everything else.
Like I said before, there's a whole beast pellets thing, and like a gameplay element, that I never even used. Like, there's a lot there that you can use if you want. But
charge R2s.
Yeah.
I mean, who's using those most of the time? I mean, obviously anyone is smart is, but I didn't even know about charge R2s. I didn't even know that you could grab a weapon. Dude, I didn't even know the trick weapons. This is another thing. Just for like going back to the gameplay loop. You have a weapon, right? So you got an axe, and then you can just hit people with like an R1, which is on PS4, or an R2, which is a heavy attack, and you can hold down R2 to get a big charge attack and then smack someone with it. Yeah. That will get you stunned on smaller enemies, then you get a visceral attack to finish them off. Pretty simple. You hit L1 and it converts the weapon. Sorry, it attacks with the weapon, and at the end of that attack, the weapon converts into a different form. And this is the case with every single weapon you pick up in the game that isn't a gun. And in some cases, that's not even the fact. Yeah. There's just some guns that do this as well, but every weapon that you pick up in this game, there's not a huge range. I would say that, 15 plus, maybe?
Maybe.
Yeah. 15, 20.
Some weapons have a bit.
I would maybe say top 30 weapons. Compared to Dark Souls, this is a very small pool. But if you take into account the fact that there's 4 different attacks for each of these weapons. All of them have different applications. All of them do different stuff. You pick one you like, and you just level that up, and that's how it goes. And then the next, there's a lot of replayability there, because like, what would it be like if I just grabbed this boom hammer? What if I got this weapon that just explodes every time I swing it at someone? Yeah. Or what if I get the whirling sword? What if I just get a giant pizza cutter that I can like slay monsters with? Or what if I get a massive club that can turn into a serrated whip and then hit people with it? Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff like that, and it does add to the replayability.
What would it be like if I played again? I'm pretty sure New Game Plus lets you like keep the weapons you found in the first playthrough as well. I think it does. So it's easier as well. You pick up all these weapons and you're like, I'm going to start with this weapon I got at the end of the game or something.
Yeah, that's right.
Though you only get like enough blood shards to upgrade 1 or 2 of them, I think, to
in one playthrough.
In one playthrough.
But there are some ways around that.
There are, but
but for the most part, it actually does involve chalice dungeons, from what I understand.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
but who wants to fucking play those?
People want to platinum it, I guess.
Well, you don't want to play. Well, if you're platinuming it, you don't want to play that chalice dungeon shit. I also played the chalice dungeons I did it before the final boss, so I didn't finish in the chalice dungeon. So I was kind of like, I just want to fucking finish the game. I want to see how this all ends and how this all wraps up.
And there's 3 different endings to pick from, as we mentioned. You've got the sunrise ending. You've got the takeover from
the like
G-Boy,
G-Boy. That's what we're calling him now.
This Gura, anyway. Or you've got Become Squid. You have all your options. And that's actually dependent on picking up certain items inside of the game.
Yeah, you need free, I can't remember what they are exactly, but you need to pick up 3 items that are scattered throughout the game.
Boards.
Yeah, umbilical cords. I was gonna say like wombs or something. That's too dumb. But I was like, no, umbilical cords.
Right. Yeah, it's odd. It's very strange. It's a massive head fuck, and it's amazing for that reason. If you feel like getting psychologically terrified, sit down at about 2 a.m. and play this game.
Yeah,
when you're sleep deprived. That's like, it's in a lot of ways an interactive horror movie.
It is. It really fucking is. Yeah.
And you do get the feeling that you're just drowning up to your ears in blood, eyeballs, and teeth. It's terrifying, man. Everything about it is scary. And the longer you play it, the more tired you get. The more tired you get, the worse you get at the game, or better, depending on the kind of person you are. But then you just feel this crushing frustration. I am now trying to deal or grapple with something that is so much bigger than me, so much stronger than me, and I'm helpless, and I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And this works so well in the story aspect, too. It's the old ones, right?
Yeah, the old ones, fucking old ones.
Godlike creatures you can't see. In Bloodborne almost becomes an old one.
The final, in the final ending, like, the fucking old one comes from the sky, like, it's like the moon or something, and you're like, what the fuck is this? And then it, like, wraps you up in tentacles and starts holding you and just, like, enticing you or something, and you're just watching, like, what on earth is this? This is horrifying. It's just, like, they're terrifying. That's what old ones meant to be, at least in Lovecraftian, like, style. They're meant to be these things that are always watching you, and you're just an insignificant speck of dust for them, and they just come down when they want to, and they're like, sup, and then they just, like, destroy you mentally, and then that's it.
I was actually going to ask you about this. This is getting a little off Bloodborne, but it is in keeping with the aesthetic. What is so appealing to you as a horror fan about Lovecraft?
It's just the unstoppable nature of Lovecraft horror. It is... I will write something about Lovecraft at some point. There is no way I can, like, do this blog about horror and not write something about it. But the brief summary I can give is that, like, what is so perfect about it is that all of Lovecraft's monsters and threats are completely unstoppable. The horror stories he creates, they're things where the characters are going to die. They're doomed from the start just by existing in his stories, and there is nothing they can do to overcome what is about to happen. And the old ones that Lovecraft creates are basically just these gods that have always been there, they've always watched you, but you are so insignificant to them. You could, like, they could just kill you with, like, a bat of a finger if they wanted to. But because you're so insignificant, they don't care. And then sometimes they just like, oh, we'll mess with the fucking little ants right now and see what we can do to, like, just to mentally destroy it or something. And it is, in every sense of the word, just truly terrifying thinking of some of the shit he's made. Like, he is a visionary in terms of, like, the horror monsters he's created. He's a bit of a weird guy, a very questionable guy, like, if anyone knows about him in like, the time period he was in. He's very sketchy, but in terms of horror, there's no denying the influence he has on, like, the industry. He is, like, the father of horror. He's done everything for it.
And it's a big thing here. Goes into a lot of stuff about existential horror. What you're talking about is existential.
Yeah.
It's the entire idea that you are so laughably insignificant in the large scheme of the universe, and that there is so much stuff out there that you don't even know exists.
Yes.
And he's one of these big things. This actually ties in really nicely to Bloodborne is dreams, right?
Yeah.
Talks about dream worlds. Talks about that weird dimension that dream space takes up, and the kinds of nightmares and creatures that live in there. And sleep and dreams are really big really big things in Bloodborne, obviously, because the whole idea of, are you awake, are you asleep? What is the hunter's dream? What even is that? People talk about dreaming. They kill you. Some monster, like, Gascoigne talks to you about this. He kills you and then it says, what does he say about dreaming? I don't even remember. But there's a constant thing of dreaming, of waking up, of going at it again, of awakening, of seeking out knowledge, of trying to grapple with the innermost or outermost sometimes corners of your own psyche.
Yeah.
Of the places that beyond that is just insanity and helplessness and, mania. Like, all this kind of stuff. Paranoia. Always the fear of the dark. Fear, nightmare, dreams, sleep. It all ties into Bloodborne. Those are really big things from what I understand in Lovecraft as well.
Yeah. Bloodborne does kind of exploit all kinds of fears, really. Like, I think every segment. I think if you're afraid of something, there's probably a chance that Bloodborne bloody does something with it at some point.
The only thing I can think about in that case that doesn't exist would be Deep Water.
Oh, there is a bit in the DLC. Like, that's kind of a bit like. That's very aquatic from what I remember. Like, the DLC has a bit of a kind of swampy, kind of aquatic and nightmare thing. I think fishes attack you at some point in that game as well.
Yeah.
But something I did actually want to going back to Gascoigne, actually, just you saying it kind of reminded me. Something else that's perfect about that boss fight is that there is a way to make that boss fight easier for you as well, by, like, going around and talking to, like, this, like, little girl that's at a window, and then you go back and forth and do, like, some kind of sub-quest, and you get a music box that's hers, and it's implied that Gascoigne's her father, and if you play the music box while fighting him, he basically, like, weakens, I'm pretty sure. And it's cool. It's the best thing for the tutorial boss, because there are, I think, other boss fights that have some kind of similar gimmick that you can kind of exploit in it. Like, not all of them, but, like, I think there's, like, one more or something that, like, at least that you can kind of, there's some kind of cool stuff. But it's just cool. Like, it's a perfect boss fight, because, like, not only is it the perfect boss fight in terms of base gameplay, but it also teaches you that there is other stuff going on there. There's lore, like if you kill him and go up on the roof, that you fight him there in like the area. If you go onto like the roof behind him or something, you find his dead wife, and like it's like, oh yeah, there's lore to this boss fight as well. There's a story to all these bosses you're fighting. It's so perfect as well.
Good guy for this is Vati Vidya. He's another Australian on YouTube. He does all the lore stuff background for. Yeah,
that's interesting.
Yeah, no, he's got entire videos, like probably 5 or 6 entire videos, like 20 minutes long, of all these different things about the background and the lore of Bloodborne.
Yeah,
really
and there's a lot there.
Yeah, absolutely. And on the sort of silly, I'm talking rampantly silly side of things. Yamfar, so like YMFAH. He does really, really good setups. He does really good videos, of how to break the Souls games. He does a really, really good section on Bloodborne in particular, and I found that hilarious. So
okay,
I'll definitely say, like, if you just want to look for something ridiculously fun or just absurd, and you enjoy these games and you want to see how you're having a really hard time, how do I beat this boss? How can I get more overpowered faster? This guy is able to show you in no uncertain terms.
That's
how
really
to do
cool.
this. It's quite funny. I'll show some after the podcast, man. It's quite good. Yeah, but we're talking about Lovecraft. We're talking about Lovecraftian horror and everything else. Have you ever dabbled with that yourself in terms of writing or reading it or doing
like in terms of reading it?
Yeah,
I've got a massive collection of Lovecraft stories.
Okay, right, my bad. Yes, actually. Yeah.
I will, like I said, I will definitely at some point talk about Lovecraft on my blog because it's inevitable. He's one of the authors that I do want to talk about, but there is so much to kind of talk about with him that like chances are I wouldn't just write one thing. I'd probably write a couple of things on him because he's a very interesting writer.
So, what would you like in summary? What would you sort of say in terms of Bloodborne? Why should you play Bloodborne?
I think the best way to describe it is that there is no other game that's like it. I'd say it is a very unique game. Like Dark Souls is as close as you get, but even then, Dark Souls and Bloodborne are like they're two completely different games. Like they're the same game in ways, but at the same time, they're not. They're so completely different that playing it is just a completely different experience. And I think it's worth just checking out because it is just it's a once in a lifetime experience in terms of video games. I don't think you'll ever get a game like it unless it's completely ripping it off, which you won't. It won't be as good. And it's just playing. If you play it and you give it the time that it requires, it's so satisfying by the end of it. Like by the time you finish with it, it's so satisfying. The gameplay is just so fun. And like you said, if you don't care about the lore as well, there's still a lot there. Like you can walk around and love it. If you love Lovecraftian horror as well and you haven't played the game, then definitely check it out because it is a minefield of like Lovecraftian horror and it is perfect.
One of the things my mates always said to me as well, is to do part of the whole Souls thing. A lot of people don't play Souls games to enjoy the Souls games. A lot of people play Souls games to say they've beaten the Souls games.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's a big thing. If you, and Mr. here is the guy who platinumed the entire game, so he understands the entire game and how difficult it is to do everything. That is insanely difficult to do. It's a very, very hard game to play, and if you tell anybody who knows anything about any of these games from Software at all, and you say I've platinumed these games, it's a big talking point. So if for no other reason, it is a massive flex. This is the point I'm trying to get at. If you want to flex on scrubs, tell them that you platinum Bloodborne. Go and play the game. Do it, honestly. A lot of people can't beat Dark Souls. A lot of casual gamers can't play Dark Souls. They can't get into it. It's not easy. It's not button mashing. It's not simple. It takes time. It takes effort. It takes energy, and it's a big talking point when you say you can beat one of these games. And Bloodborne, in my opinion, is the hardest of the lot. I really think it is the most difficult out of all those games I've played. I've played the first briefly. The second, Dark Souls game, is the easiest and it's my favorite. The third is hard, but I think Bloodborne's harder purely because of the pace. So, out of all the Soulsborne games, I think Sekiro or Psykiro or whatever it is in a completely different category. I don't even put it in the same kind of
planet. It is a very different game, just from what I've seen. It's a game I want to play at some point, but it's a very different game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, man. So you should play Bloodborne for the horror. You should play it so you can tell people that you've beaten it.
Yeah.
And you should just get onto it and have a look at it. And hopefully you've all enjoyed the podcast. All right. So for our next podcast, we'll be covering a movie which has become memed very, very hard of late. And it's a phenomenal film. It was revolutionary in its time, and it continues to be revolutionary to this day. And Shaun is staring at me in abject horror. But the next podcast, we'll be covering the first Shrek movie.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, this is going to be interesting.
It's going to be great. All right. Thanks for your time, Shaun. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one.